Good afternoon. This is Joseph Scorese at Smart Real Estate Podcast, your mortgage lending specialist. And I'm here with my co-host, Yordell Perkins of Perkatech, social media expert and social media strategist for real estate professionals and industry professionals as a whole. And Smart Real Estate Podcast is a podcast that we developed in the past 6 months, really to provide ongoing information and education for our circle of influence, our network, and real estate professionals in the field. And what it has turned into during this pandemic has been a daily dose of real estate professionals, licensed professionals in the field, providing a piece of education for about a half hour, 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, by Yordell Perkins and myself. And today's subject at 3 o'clock, we have Natalie Klyashtorny, attorney. I did practice like 7 times now, so I did pretty good, with Nochumson P.C. And she's an attorney that works with Alan Nochumson, who we interviewed last week. And today's subject, we're going to be discussing paid leave and unemployment benefits during the pandemic. And I think it's a really good subject because a lot of people are confused about unemployment right now, who can take it, who's available for it. Natalie, thank you for coming on to Smart Real Estate Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
It's been a couple months since I've seen you, about a half a year, give or take. I think we were at a happy hour. We ran into each other at one of the networking events or another.
Yes.
And I know you have spoken at my previous events, and I hope to soon have you back again under the new normalized circumstances.
Yeah, I hope so too.
How are you holding up with things?
As well as can be. I'm lucky that I can work from home and that I'm safe. Knock on wood. So many people are sacrificing. Our essential workers are out there working, especially our healthcare providers.
And can you provide us a little background on you as an attorney?
I focus my practice in business counseling and litigation, and also employment law and employment litigation.
So we're going to get right to the crux of the subject. Many people are now working from home because of the stay-in-place order. However, for those who cannot work from home, what are their options?
Well, Joe, the stay-at-home orders that have been in place by our nation's governors basically divided all businesses into 2 categories: essential or non-essential. The ones that are non-essential have closed. If your business or if your place of work is an essential business and you cannot work, you have the option of taking paid sick leave under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is one of the first pieces of legislation that Congress passed after the shutdowns. It applies to employers of less than 500 employees, and it requires them to provide a certain amount of paid sick leave to their employees who are affected by COVID-19. It also expanded the Family Medical Leave Act to apply to COVID-19. Pursuant to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, an employer is required to provide up to 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave to their employees, regardless of how long those employees have worked for them. So basically, if I started on March 1st, I would still be qualified for that paid sick leave. Employees also have the option, but are not required to take other forms of paid sick leave prior to electing Families First Coronavirus sick leave. For instance, those who work in the city of Philadelphia have the option of taking paid sick leave pursuant to our city policy, which requires employers of 10 or more employees to provide paid sick leave of up to 5 paid sick days for those employees who were employed for 90 days prior and who work at least 40 hours per year. In addition to the paid sick leave of 80 hours, for those employees who have worked for the employer for at least 30 days prior to the pandemic, the federal government temporarily expanded FMLA leave for employees who are unable to work. Whereas before, FMLA was unpaid sick leave. Because of COVID-19, it is now paid. So the first 10 days of FMLA do not have to be paid. But after the first 10 days, an employer is required to provide paid sick leave of 2/3 of the employee's regular rate of pay, subject to a limit of $200 per day and up to a maximum total of $10,000.
So if I'm sick or quarantined because I was exposed to COVID-19, is paid sick leave available for me?
Yes, as long as your employer is still open. If the employer is not open, then you don't qualify for paid sick leave. You can also get paid sick leave if you're merely showing symptoms of COVID and are waiting for a diagnosis. So you don't have to necessarily be positive for COVID-19. You can just you can take the leave if you just have symptoms and suspect that you have COVID-19.
So what about if somebody in my family is sick?
Yes, if a member of your family has been exposed to or exhibits symptoms of COVID-19, you are eligible for either FMLA leave or leave under FFCRA. Same thing if you're not necessarily sick, but your child's school has closed down. For most of our states, Pennsylvania, also New Jersey, schools are going to be closed for the rest of the school year. So if you need time off to take care of your children, they don't, not because they're sick, but just because the schools are closed, then you can use paid sick leave.
Can I take sick leave if my employer had to shut down as a non-essential business?
No, unfortunately, you cannot take paid sick leave if your employer is closed. At that point, you would have to apply for unemployment benefits.
So what about unemployment benefits? Who's now eligible?
Joe, thanks to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, commonly known as the CARES Act, the $2.2 trillion stimulus package, many more individuals than ever before are eligible for unemployment benefits. And this applies to those who are not working part-time, had their hours cut off, or are too sick to work. So basically, if you've exhausted your sick leave, you can then apply for unemployment benefits. Mm-hmm. And very significantly, especially for those of us who live in Pennsylvania, unemployment now applies to those who have their own businesses, are self-employed, gig workers like Uber drivers or Lyft drivers, and self-employed individuals.
So if I have my own business, am I eligible for unemployment benefits?
Yes. Yes, you are. And I advise all my clients who are self-employed to immediately apply for unemployment benefits, which is not an easy task because so many people are applying. But just last Friday, the Pennsylvania Department of Labor Industry opened their portal, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance web portal, for self-employed individuals and independent contractors to apply for unemployment benefits.
How long do unemployment benefits now last?
Pursuant to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance web portal, you can get unemployment benefits at the state rate until December 31st, 2020. And then because of the federal stimulus, you will, in addition to the normal state rate, which you would get, you're also going to get $600 per week until July 31st.
So let me see, so being self-employed or an independent contractor, am I eligible for a loan under the Payroll Protection Program?
You are, and a lot of people don't know that because they hear the name Payroll Protection Program, they assume that you have to have a large payroll, but you don't. If you're self-employed, you can most certainly apply for one of the PPP loans. The problem is that, as we know, funding has been exhausted.
Well, is there a second round that just got approved that's going to be funding? Really, there was a second round just approved by Senate, right?
Correct. On Tuesday, the Senate voted to fund additional money for the program. Yeah. It still has to be approved by the House, and hopefully that'll happen as soon as possible. They were actually supposed to take a vote today.
Wow. Okay.
And so once that happens, once the House passes this law, the president is expected to sign it into law, and hopefully more funding will be available. What's different about the second round is there's a specific earmark for smaller banks, because there's been a lot of controversy about the big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, for giving preference to their larger customers, thereby defeating the very purpose of the PPP, which was to provide aid and relief to small businesses.
Yeah, well, isn't Shake Shack so important right now at this point? And Ruth and Chris Steakhouse? I thought they were the most. It is a little nutsy with things, because there's so many people calling me saying, "Hey, is your bank doing the PPP?" We had over 600 customers that we have addressed directly, and at this point, we can't take on anybody outside that's not a customer of the bank. It's nearly impossible. And some of this paperwork is not very easy for the common small business to understand how to fill out.
Right.
Service, are you offering that type of service as a firm to help people go through the paperwork, to properly file the paperwork?
Absolutely. And we're also advising clients and prospective clients that they should probably go to the smaller banks, just because the smaller banks are looking for your business.
Yeah.
And they would be more interested in a smaller client.
So my other question would be, my business is an essential business and we are still open. Are there any new safety and health rules I should be aware of?
As a matter of fact, just last week, at the end of last week, the governor's office promulgated new safety and social distancing rules for essential businesses. And we expect that once the stay-in-place order is lifted and non-essential businesses are allowed to open, the same rules and guidelines will be applying to non-essential businesses. So it's very important for pretty much everybody to get familiar with these rules. Specifically, all employees of all businesses are now required to wear face masks, and all customers are required to wear face masks. If somebody comes into your business without a face mask, we're actually required to turn them down and turn them away, unless you're in the food, medication, or medical supplies business. In that case, you're required to provide an alternate method of pickup or delivery for those individuals who do not have a face mask. But for inside the place of business, everybody, employees, customers, everybody has to wear a face mask. Also, non-essential visitors to a business are prohibited, and where feasible, businesses are recommended that they do business by appointment only. Mm-hmm. And also, to the extent feasible, businesses must cut down their occupancy to no greater than 50% of the number stated on their certificate of occupancy at any given time, in order for employees and customers to maintain a social distance of 6 feet. Businesses must also stagger and stop break times, and provide enough physical space for employees to have breaks and meals, and to enable those employees to practice social distancing and prevent large gatherings of groups. Meetings must be conducted virtually if they would involve 10 or more people. And businesses must also disinfect high-touch areas in accordance with guidelines established by the Centers for Disease Control. Also, protocols must be established in the event a business has discovered that it was exposed to an individual with a probable or confirmed case of COVID-19. There's also new protocols for those businesses to find out that one of their employees has tested positive for COVID-19. Upon learning of such a situation, a business must implement temperature screenings before employees are allowed onto the business premises, and they must send home any employee who has a temperature above 100.4 degrees. The business must also clean and disinfect the area where that employee worked, and notify all other employees who worked in close contact with the individual. And that's now law within Pennsylvania. It was put in enforcement last Sunday. And those who do not obey will be subject to citations and fines, potential revocation of their business license. So it's pretty serious.
So, I've been reading and listening, and it's so overwhelming. May 8th is all essential and non-essential business allowed to reopen? Is that what the date is for the state of Pennsylvania? Because then they said, well, we're going to reopen based on county colors. Like some
Correct.
counties it's going to be a phasing in. I would imagine Philadelphia County will be the last county to reopen.
Unfortunately, yes. So basically what happened was the governor extended the stay-at-home order through at least May 8th. That doesn't mean that it's going to expire May 8th, but it's at least through May 8th. And he actually made a speech last night in which he said that there is going to be a phased-in reopening, and that he anticipates that maybe around May 8th, they'll be able to lift some of the restrictions in the northwestern and north central parts of the state. Of course, we in Philadelphia are in the opposite direction of that. We're in the southeast part of the state. Also, very importantly for real estate clients, he did make one dispensation, which is construction will now be allowed to be performed in Pennsylvania.
In the whole state.
In the whole state. And originally he had said that construction can start May 8th, but now he has changed that, moved that up to May 1st. So as of May 1st, which is going to be next Friday, construction can resume.
You know what makes me nervous is real estate industry wasn't referenced at all, like
No.
the real estate agent itself. So they're still have to follow their license and cannot practice till it's lifted.
Correct. Real estate agents can only do work virtually. Virtual open houses, virtual meetings via Zoom versus with clients and prospective clients. Perhaps that'll change in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But as of now, there has not been made an exception for real estate agents and brokers. There have been certain other rules. For instance, notaries can now do their notaries electronically to enable virtual closings.
Yeah. But but the closings, wasn't it March 18th? After that, there's no residential closings right now till on anything purchases with using a mortgage, of course, till an unforeseen date, correct?
You can still do a virtual closing though.
On a purchase?
Yeah.
Even after March 18th?
No, I think you're correct about that. Not after March 18th.
Yeah, I think they haven't changed that either. That's not changed. I mean,
right.
And then appraisals. I mean, on my side, if you're looking for a cash out on your property right now, and they can't do an interior, we can't do the appraisal. They literally shelf the file.
Really? Not even a drive-by?
Well, that's
drive-bys are allowed.
Drive-bys are allowed, but that's if you don't want any cash. If you're just if you're just trying to refinance rate and term, meaning the current mortgage, and not trying to take any money out, they'll either waiver it depending on the property type, or they'll allow a drive-by. But a drive-by kind of throws a lot of things off, because if you're up in Chestnut Hill, let's just use a higher end neighborhood, you don't see the interiors. Somebody could have put $200,000 into their insides, and the value far exceeds a lot of the other properties in the area. By just doing a drive-by, they're just following the protocol book of comps. So I think appraisals are going to have a real rub over the next 60 to 90 days because of this. Because appraisers are not allowed to go inside of a house at this point.
Correct.
Done. So they follow the same thing as a real estate agent at this point. Until that's lifted, a lot of the loans are being shelved. Are you finding that with some of your clients with closings?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what are you basically working out with them, with the buyer and seller? What's the general discussion are you guys having, you and Alan, with the clients?
Well, we recommend that they do everything possible that's within the rules, so that once the stay-at-home order is lifted, they can quickly proceed to hopefully closing, a correct appraisal. I mean, there's still things you can do. You can certainly look for a property, albeit it has to be on a computer, but there's a lot that still can be done to move the process forward of buying or selling a home. But I mean, a lot of it is also psychological. For instance, if you were planning to list your house on the market, you may not want to do so if you have that option, because of the idea that people will be going through your house potentially.
Some interesting information to know. So what's the best way we can contact you for a consultation or a Zoom discussion if we have an issue with the unemployment benefits, PPP, legal transactions, zoning? You guys are a plethora of sourcing on the legal front, and I enjoy having you guys. I consider as part of my power team where I can refer people to you in confidence. So what's the best way to reach you?
Well, the best way to reach me now that I'm working remotely is through my email, which is Natalie, Natalie Klyashtorny at Nochumson.com, or my cell phone, which is 215-901-7313.
Natalie, it was a pleasure having you on Smart Real Estate Podcast. We feature our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Liptify, Facebook Live, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And Yardell Perkins from Perkatech will provide you a YouTube copy to you and Alan to provide to your circle of influence and yet your network. And I really do hope to see you and Alan in the upcoming months out on the networking field. Hopefully we'll be wearing masks, so it won't be handshakes, maybe it'll be some elbow bumps.
Yeah.
But
listen, I never liked handshakes because most people's hands are sweaty.
Yeah.
Something that's good.
This is true. But at the end of the day, you know, when you're a social butterfly like myself, you like to always shake people's hands and things of that nature. But it's definitely going to be a new normalization to what we do on an event educational platform where we're out typically meeting and greeting with a large amount of people. So it'll be interesting for us how we transition. You guys are transitioning wonderfully, putting out such great information. Is there a site to go to see all the podcasts that you guys are doing and interviews you're doing?
Yes, our website, which is www.nochumson.com, and we actually have a special section of our website just for COVID-19 issues. If you go on our homepage, it's right there.
I'd like to extend to you. We send out an email blast to about 40,000 people once a week. We'll be up to about 50,000 people next week. And if you would like us to put that on our distribution to our constant contact blast, please have somebody send that to Yardell and I, and we'll be more than happy to get that out to our database.
A link to the page?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can send something, and we'll take care of that. And I want to thank you again for coming on to Smart Real Estate Podcast. Have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, and we'll hopefully see each other soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Yardell.
Have a great day. Thank you for checking in the Smart Real Estate Podcast. Have a great afternoon.